6.
Like the number.
Love it.
It was originally designed to give me privacy, which that totally fucking backfired.
6, is that actually your name?
Yeah.
SIX. Like, have you officially made it 6?
Yeah.
Wow. Can I ask your last name?
That is my surname.
Amazing.
It's a mononym. Kia ora, New Zealand, the world. Man, it's so exciting. We have listeners from all around the world. I was looking at our statistics the other night. We got people from Copenhagen, Denmark, England, Hamilton. Honestly, we're going global. I think we have 30% of our listeners are from Europe. So welcome Europe, welcome Americas. Today we have a very boring guest on because we actually couldn't find anybody more interesting. So we had to scrape the bottom of the barrel. No, I kid you not. We're actually very privileged to have Mahesh. Mahesh, I'm pronouncing that correctly?
Which means dancer and destroyer.
That's right. It means Shiva.
Shiva, right.
So
right.
Shiva is the third of the Trinity. Creator, preserver, and destroyer. He takes care of the afterworld after and sets it up for renewal all over again. And one of his archetypes is he's a dancer.
Is he the one that also smokes hashish?
I think they all do. It's just
Throwing light
across
into
the
it.
board.
While
yeah.
we're on the subject of
Yeah.
we're on the subject of hashish, how do you feel about the potential decriminalisation or legalisation of marijuana?
I think there's enough evidence to suggest that when done right, it really works. Right, but you got to do these things right.
Right. Okay, we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
Indeed.
Because I still haven't introduced yourself. Mahesh is the National Party candidate for Auckland Central. I've got that right?
Get up.
Got that right. So you're up against Chloe Swarbrick, foolish man. You're up against Oscar Sims from Labour, and Damien. Thank you, Sarah. Honestly, since Sarah came on board, it's like having a memory bank that I can just rely on. Sarah is fantastic.
Good.
Foolishly volunteered to help us clowns out, and of course Dan.
But Mahesh, you introduce yourself.
Sure. So, my name's Mahesh. What should I share with you? Okay, really quickly. I came to New Zealand on my own when I was 14 from Singapore to Napier in 1994.
Singapore to Napier, yeah.
Yeah, in 94.
It's very similar.
Yeah,
places,
very
right,
similar.
sure.
So the good thing is I got an understanding of regional New Zealand. And then I came up to Auckland, the big smoke, to hit the clubs.
Huge.
How'd you come here by yourself at 14?
So the Ministry of Education came through Singapore and did a roadshow, a whole bunch of schools. We went, I looked through the brochures, and there were green fields and pretty girls. and my dad said, do you want to go learn about life by yourself in New Zealand? And he'd gone through boarding school in India. I was like, let's do this. And I had a strong connection to India. I come from a low socioeconomic background. Don't have a silver spoon in my mouth. Came here, then came to University of Auckland. Did stats and management, failed a whole bunch of papers. Was one of the first baristas in Starbucks on Queen Street. Won a reality TV show where they screwed up and I ended up being on fire for 15 seconds. So I've got third-degree burns through about 12% of my body.
Which reality TV show?
Fear Factor in New Zealand.
Fear. I remember that.
They'll know.
Tell us about that.
You do
What
crazy
happened there?
stunts. So I had to maintain a straight line, blindfolded.
I've heard this.
Blindfolded while there were mines going off. I won. That was the last stunt. I won it. And then they asked me to recreate the stunt.
Real mines going on.
Mines going
Wasn't
off.
it called Straight Up or something?
It was called Going Straight.
Going
So you had
Straight,
to maintain it's obviously very different 2023, but you had to maintain a straight line whatever happened, right? So I was right on top. They asked me to recreate it. Julie Christie did. And
Julie Christie.
Yes. And
The woman who fucked media in New Zealand.
Yeah. And yeah.
Because of this?
No,
she's just got a legacy of just destroying everything she touches.
So they asked me to recreate that final stunt.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it again without the blindfolds for a helicopter shot. They had let the safety officer go home. They forgot to put anti-inflammatory fluid on me.
They forgot
What
the
the hell?
anti-inflammatories.
And so I'm doing the stunt again. So the producer from the side yelled, "Go faster!"
Was the producer Alec Baldwin?
No, good one. And I was right on top of a mine when they detonated it.
No
So
way.
my whole upper torso just like lit up in flames.
Fire mine.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is skin
Wow. Oh, God.
grafted from my thighs, stapled and superglued.
Oh my God.
The most painful thing about, obviously there's a lot of pain here. The most painful thing.
Burning's one of the
Yeah,
worst pains.
correct. Yeah. On the 11th day in the burns unit, the skin, my flesh had to be cleaned. The big stretches of flesh. So you get put in what's called a burns bath, and a toothbrush gets taken out, and you don't get any anesthesia, and they just scrub the raw flesh, because it's not a surgical thing. I was in hospital for about, I think, 2.5 months. It actually, this Auckland Central is very personal to me, because the thing that I felt kept me safe was Auckland Central, because I couldn't go to sleep at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. My parents moved from Singapore to France to the US, so this is my story, right?
What do your parents do?
My dad was an engineer, and
That's pretty broad.
yeah, a semiconductor engineer, like, nothing too like dramatic, just
Just so the end of the Fear Factor show that you got blown up on.
yeah.
Did you get a big payout for that or
So
something?
they find I had no clue what I was doing, right? So they find
They still eat it though, eh?
yeah, they did. They fined them for 60K. I got 30K.
Okay.
Yeah,
30K
not
for
enough.
being set on fire.
it's no money's ever enough, right? But I mean, it's,
I don't know. Maybe 100,000.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe. I'm not an angry person. I don't have the privilege of anger. I don't hold on to privilege of anger. So I remember Julie Christie seeing me the only time after that at the courthouse, and she started crying, and I just gave her a hug, and
Oh.
Was that the end of the Fear Factor TV series?
No,
in New
no,
Zealand?
no. They
Straight,
kept going.
going straight.
I think they
And
got
it
around.
wasn't about
They got
conversion
around the
therapy.
copyright. No, they got around the copyright issues by
Yeah,
a
it's
slight
like-
little. So, introducing myself. Outside of that, after that, started working here. Then went overseas. Did a few different things. The GFC was the most powerful thing that ever impacted my life.
GFC?
Global financial crisis. I got made redundant and didn't feel like I was creating any value for
This
society.
was about 2008.
Correct, right? So then I did an MBA. I didn't have enough.
Master of
Business
Business
Administration.
Administration.
A lot of acronyms going around.
That's right. 100%.
FYI,
Yeah, that's right.
LOL.
LOL.
TMI.
Yeah. I'd done 3 years in Tokyo. I was going through a separation. The global financial crisis happened. I had hardly any money. Got a scholarship, would sleep in the university rooms because I didn't have money in Sydney. Somehow got out of all of that. Met an amazing woman who's my wife now. And started my own startup. And then was one of the first leaders at Canva. So we were...
Canva?
Canva's a design tool.
Oh,
the
yeah,
marketing tool.
That's like the creating posters
Correct.
and art.
Correct,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's
We were
huge.
25 people. It was worth 20
So
million.
everyone was waiting for Canva because before that we were using Microsoft Paint.
Correct.
And it was
and
so
all
crappy.
Of the stuff. Yeah. We were 25 people. It was 20 million. Today it's 4,000 people with 40 billion. Right. And so I was part of that leadership team that helped scale that kind of growth. And I told my wife 10 years ago that I was going to come home and do this.
As in be a politician.
Correct. Because and then years in, I said, "Hey, it's time to move to New Zealand." She's Australian,
Yeah.
and she said, "What are you talking about? Who ever believes anything that you hear on a second date?"
Did you know you were going to be national then, or you just knew you wanted to be a politician?
No, I didn't.
So what attracted you to the right?
To the National Party, to its limit.
To the right?
Well,
To the right.
it's a hard one, right? Like socially, I'm liberal. I'm very liberal, very progressive. Fiscally, I'm conservative, right? So.
And when you say fiscally, for those
Yes, sorry.
non-academics,
Sorry.
that means financially.
Yes. I believe in limited government. I want to give power away to communities, to societies. Which is the fundamental difference. Like, I believe in decentralization, like giving power away, while the other side believes in centralization, right? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's fundamentally, that's important to me. Like, I don't trust, I trust people more than the largest, most powerful thing in the country.
Do you have like a grounding in New Zealand political history?
I have a reasonable grounding. I'm not super sophisticated.
I'm not expecting that, but
Yes.
I mean, neither am I. But it's just interesting that I find with ideologically driven politics, it's kind of like you've already made up your decision about an issue before it becomes an issue. Could we not have a more collaborative style of governance where it's like, you know what, those lefties are actually right about some stuff, and you know the right wing is right about stuff, and let's face it, X just fucked.
Well, they'll be on the show soon. They'll give them a chance.
Are they?
Yeah.
Did I authorize that?
I thought you... No, okay, whatever.
I gotta say, I totally.
No, we will. We've got to be fair and unbiased.
Yeah. I totally.
Sorry, Chloe.
I totally agree. We're 5 million people. The reason why our political spectrum is so short compared to, say, America or US or whatever it is, we're 5 million people. We can't afford wide swings left or right or up or down. You need common sense decisions in this country.
You've obviously, grown up all over the world and got a lot more worldly experience than I think any of us here. Probably Dan's got a bit more experience, to be honest. I mean, you should hear some of
I've
his
been to
stories.
Singapore about 10 times.
Amazing.
Yeah, but-
Sensational. Changi Airport. Yeah.
I mean,
It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best.
as a new Kiwi,
Yeah.
I mean,
As an
I
immigrant?
say that I don't mean that any disrespect, but as a new Kiwi, I mean, we've got a fairly stable political environment, but it just seems like we're sliding downhill. We've gone from couple of short decades ago, from having one of the highest standards of living in the world,
Correct.
to now we're like can't pay our nurses, we can't pay our doctors, we can't pay our firefighters. We're losing good quality professionals overseas every day, and not just Australia but England and Canada are targeting our people. And to be honest, I don't blame them for leaving.
Yeah, for the last 6 years, and we have run the country, and maybe that's happened before in New Zealand's history, and ideology has been expressed, right? And ideologies are wonderful. They're like, because it's a vision, and this is how the world should be, and stuff like that.
All an ideology is a word for your beliefs and your values. People say, I'm not ideologically driven. If you have an opinion, beliefs, and values, you have an ideology.
Right. So, and we do not have, to your point, Six, we don't have the economic resilience to express. We're not Sweden, Norway, Denmark yet. We have this imagination that we are. We are not Sweden, Norway, Denmark yet. We want that. We're so desperate for that.
How do we get there?
You need a level of affluence in the country, like across the board. So Sweden had Siemens and IKEA. Finland had Nokia. Norway had all its oil. So you need that level of capital, that wealth, and then you can set up the systems to go, okay, free education, free healthcare. You have a provident fund, like a large investment thing for the country itself, which invests very strategically, and then you have a system which keeps feeding itself. But we're not there yet. And if we try to live this world that is not true, like it's a household and you're like, oh, we have all the money right now and we should be able to do this. No, we don't.
But is that also because we're not taxing the rich? We don't have capital gains.
Sure. That's not the reason why. You can have that much more sort of inequity reducing tax system when you have the level of capital. But until you have that, you need to promote entrepreneurial zeal. You need to get that resource and capital in first. Once that's
Isn't there
done,
already a lot here now, though?
they will leave. They will leave in droves, especially to Six's
That's what
point.
Oscar Sims said last week.
They will leave in droves to Six's point. There's the single biggest talent resource shortage the world has is skills. Countries are fighting for skills. So then if some other country goes, hey, come in and you'll be able to do something with us, which is exactly what's happening, right? So we need that. You know, it's funny. I caught up with. Sorry to jump in. I caught up with some Greens uni supporters just after a debate, and I said, I want New Zealand to have free education and free healthcare and free. I want, like Sweden does, lets its students go.
I thought we did have free healthcare.
No, sorry, like free dentistry, right? Like,
Dental,
right?
yeah,
That would be great.
Yeah,
I would vote for anyone
Yeah.
who was running for free dental.
I want all of that, but we need to get there. And there was this confused look in their eyes where they're like, "You want these things?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." Like, who doesn't?
I thought you were Satan.
Yeah. I was like, of course I do. Are you kidding me? Of course I do. And then they said,
Do you think we're too heavily invested in primary industries, i.e., farming, dairy, agriculture? They're all the same things. Forestry. You know, I mean, like, should we be investing in emergent technologies? I mean, New Zealand should be at the forefront, especially in research and development.
Here's a crazy analogy. IBM used to build computers. Then they got into IBM services, which is what they make money, right, from a lot, like consulting services, projects. In the same way, we can go from Fonterra to Fonterra services, right? We can provide the consulting, advisory, high margin, high value work of, dairy and agriculture to the world. I agree with you. We are.
You want to put the fun in Fonterra?
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's good. That's good.
Frontier.
That's good.
Sorry, I'll
that's right.
delete that
He's
part.
trying to be.
Put the terra in Frontier.
Fonterra.
But to your point, yes, but we need to again stage it, right? So you need to get enough resource. Then we need to take a punt on technology. We need to take a punt on being an advisory. Like, hey, we are the best at doing agriculture. Let's make that the great big export. So you need to keep investing in the primary industry for now to make sure that we can grow other skills, other stuff. Do a massive deal with India. Do a massive deal with Southeast Asia. Get that economic resilience. And then, yes, we should de-risk, right? It makes perfect sense.
What about immigration? Do you see that? I mean, personally, I think we could have another 1 million people
In the South Island.
in the South
Easy.
Island. Yeah.
Just 1 million? I don't.
Well, easy.
Like, come on, we're huge.
Yeah, I mean, you're from India, so I mean,
Yeah.
a million people on the main
Right,
street.
he's from Singapore.
No.
I know India well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, should we, really, open up the South Island? I mean, fuck, it's useless for anything else. I mean, honestly, what does the South
What do you do?
Island
What about Northland?
contribute to the gross domestic profit?
Hey,
Fonterra.
Christchurch is pretty mint right now. Like,
Mid.
Only because they've spent like a couple of $1 billion of insurance
Wait, I thought
money.
mid was a derogative.
is mint.
Oh, mint. I thought you said mid.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
mint. What was I
Have
gonna-
you been to Christchurch?
Yes, many times.
It's like Hamilton on steroids.
Is that,
Going
okay.
the other way.
Okay.
Going the other way.
I see. Okay, I haven't lived there. I've just visited, so I had a good time when I visited.
It's so fucking flat.
That's why you don't have to stay.
Great place to cycle around.
Hey, I'm putting my hand up for Auckland Central. Let's go.
What about Auckland Central?
Yeah.
Drew you to it?
It's home, right? My best year of my life is O'Rourke, Hall of Residence.
How long have you lived here?
I lived close to a decade in the city, and I've been back home now for about 3 years. Right, so like I was saying, Mercury Plaza, like way back in the day. This was as a Asian immigrant. This is where K Road is home for me. Like for an Asian immigrant kid in Auckland City, home is K Road, right?
Do you find, though, that there is a kind of casual racism in New Zealand that
Sure.
perhaps us as Palangis don't really appreciate or understand?
Hey, the number of times when I was growing up, I got called curry muncher, go back home, do this, do that. I've discussed with high school buddies of mine, did you know you said this? Winston Peters, when he followed Pauline Hanson's route in Pauline Hanson, Australian MP, and he came out anti-immigration, pretty much anti-race, anti-Asian in a way. I got bullied. I got whacked in school, right? So, also, but having said that, I've always been the minority. In Singapore, Singapore's childhood, obviously, but here. And and I know, I saw kids who look like me break rocks for a living in India. So I was very lucky that gratitude was embedded into me. Yeah, life's tough.
You must have seen like real poverty.
Yes, correct. I have.
mean, we've got people here that are begging on the streets, but then they're going home to their emergency housing, or they're dining at Auckland City Mission. And nothing against my street whānau, because I know you've all got your own issues as well. But in India and in a lot of countries around the world, there are no social services.
Correct.
If you unable to work through no fault of your own, there's no safety net.
People in India, there'll be streets in India where people amputate themselves so that they can beg, so they can be seen as a beggar. And and I have to say, India is a very, very different country from when I was younger. The Indian youth of today is confident, cocky, ready to take on the world. 1.6 billion people at the average age of 28. The creativity, consumption, all of that, in my opinion, it will be the cultural competitor for the US. The British Prime Minister is Indian. The up-and-coming Republican presidential candidate is Indian. Like, it's interesting, right, with India and China. 25 years ago, there was this big debate about who's going to win. Is it going to be the dragon or the tiger? And China sorted itself out, like, right? And for people with an Indian background, there's a lot of pride and democracy and this and that and, freedom of press, which India has and China does not have. And then you look at 20 years later and you're like, man, you guys sorted poverty out like China did, right? The most amazing shift in poverty the world has ever seen.
So you support communism?
At the
I thought you were national at the Greens.
at the end of that, you know what I've realized? I don't know, right? At any given point, it's contextual. To your point, Six, it's contextual. It's what's right by a certain area, etc. Indians have done really well in the world because of freedom of expression, democracy. We'll have an argument about 10 things before we actually do something, right? So I don't know if the next 20 years, whether that actually, comes into fruition in regards to India doing really well. I don't know. I mean, you see the British Prime Minister, and now you see this Republican guy come through, and it's fascinating, isn't it? Like these little decisions and these values.
You're on the show. You're plugging the National Party. You're plugging yourself. Why should people give you the vote with the election coming up?
I love Auckland Central. This is my home. This means the world to me. I'm a senior. I've been through enough challenges, personal and professional. When I say I do something, I get it done.
What are you going to do for K Road?
Make sure crime's sorted. Make sure social housing sorted.
How are you going to do that?
Prioritize it, right? So you go, hey, what are the metrics? What are the numbers? Let's get the residents organization. Let's get the business association. Let's have a monthly meeting. I've already spoken to the police spokesperson for the National Party, prospectively the future police minister, pushing for a hub downtown again, making sure that people walk the beat. Again, that policemen walk the beat.
What about police on e-bikes?
Sure.
Why not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's just get them walking first. We'll get them walking
I
first.
don't know, you
And
see
we'll get them walking
something?
first. We'll get them walking first. And then it's making sure that something's a priority and publicly going, hey, I had meeting number 1. This is what happened. These are the tactics. Meeting number 2. This is the meeting. This happened. This is meeting number 3. This happened. If I become the Auckland Central MP and K Road, Ponsonby, and the city does not become safer, you can hold me accountable. You can take me to town.
We're going to take you down on that.
Absolutely.
We're gonna get you back on-
100%.
If you get elected...
Yeah. 1 year.
we'll
Give me
get you back,
1 year.
we'll get you back. Do you think it's weird that nobody has ever seen Chloe Schwarber and Wonder Woman in the same room?
Are you sure they haven't? Huh?
No, seriously. If you were to endorse one of your competitors,
Yeah.
one of your MPs,
Yeah.
what do we call them? Other competitors?
Candidates.
Enemies.
Candidates. Who would you endorse?
Chloe.
Good. I'm totally unbiased, by the way. Love you, Chloe.
I wouldn't endorse her, but if I had to.
I have a pretty philosophical question for
Please,
you.
Sarah, go ahead.
Do you think it's better as a politician to have the courage to stick to your values no matter what anyone else says, or the courage to realize that you might be wrong about certain things?
Easily, number 2.
Why?
Because I think one of the most important things when you put your hand up to go into power is to understand that power corrupts, right? So you need
Absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
correct. So you need to hold on to that. I hold on to that hard, right? So which is why I always get a lot of feedback, and it's this funny thing. I told Simon Wilson this. I understand my irrelevance. I'm a data point. Like I'm just, like it's just one person, you know? I've seen enough. I've seen like people break rocks for a living. I've been on fire. I've done this. I've done that. It's just another story that's going to come and go, right? I just want to serve for a significant period of time and make this place better. And then, like, you know, like it's...
What is it that drives you to serve? I mean, I grew up in the Mormon culture, Latter-day Saint culture, although they'd be highly disgraced by me now. Sorry, Joseph Smith. But, you know, in the LDS community, we always talked about making yourself of service. So what drives you to be of service?
I saw my father. My father was a community leader wherever he went. He took care of people. My mother made sure that I understood gratitude, especially given the poverty that I saw. And like service as a concept and a sense of duty was a very big part of my childhood. And I hate seeing people in pain. And I don't use the word lightly. I hate it. So I think at a very young age, I kind of created an identity for myself. Like, you know, you're your father's son, you're your mother's daughter, whatever, right? All those things go away. You get divorced, your parents die, whatever, all these things happen. So my sense of identity, the one thing that doesn't change for me is that I'm a servant to society, right? And that's nearly me trying to make myself feel safe, right? Like this battery that keeps giving, that will never go away.
Do you think New Zealand has a healthy democracy?
Yes, it does. It has a healthy democracy.
I've had 2 people come to me today, and I've spoken to them about the fact that we're getting yourself on, and we've had a couple of the other candidates on, and they're like, "Oh, I don't vote. There's no point. What's the difference? You know, it's all the same." What would be? I mean, you know, as a feminist, I think it's very important that women vote. But what would you say to people that are going, "It doesn't matter. Nothing changes. It's all the same. It's only the names that change."
Everything changes. I mean, the current situation is very, very pertinent, right? We have our country getting poorer and poorer. We're getting less safe. Our education standards are going down, and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? It is a critical decision to make, whether you want to turn things around or you want to allow things to keep going south, right? And I think if we had reached our point of, but you know what, going back to that 6, that feeling is consistent through all walks of life. Like I have friends who've always said that. I just happen to be one of those guys that went, no, one person can make a difference.
Totally. Imagine if Kate Shepherd had said one person can't make a difference.
That's right.
Imagine if Mahatma Gandhi had said, you know, just the way things are. You know, imagine if Martin Luther King had gone, "Oh, you can't change shit." You know, so I totally buy into that. Look, I do want to wish you luck for the upcoming election. Not too much luck because, I've got my money. But just before we wrap up, because we are nearly out of time, what's your 30-second elevator pitch?
I will get crime sorted. I will make sure that Auckland Transport's held accountable, and it makes common sense decisions, and I will fight for you in regards to that.
Common sense ain't that common.
Yes, that's true. I will make sure that social housing works. I've worked one-on-one with people who are struggling with mental health and drug abuse, and I've realized how much the system is not working for a handful of people. I'll make sure K Road is back to its to where it should be, and my only focus will be Auckland Central. I will fight for Auckland Central. This is my home. So vote me in if you want those things addressed and if you want Auckland Central to reach the glory of being a global city that it deserves.
Look, Mahesh, you're incredibly articulate, obviously very intelligent, and a formidable candidate, I'm sure. It's going to be a really interesting election. I want to take this opportunity to tell everyone, get out there, use your right to vote.
Absolutely.
That's how we can make a change. And, if you don't like what the government's doing, you can get involved with select committee submissions. It's not that difficult. So, New Zealand's one of the few countries where politics is really accessible. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. Also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, K Road Business Association, the White Lady Burger Bar, Saloon Bar, Lifewise, who am I forgetting?
The McCoy family.
The McCoy family, yeah. Look, if you like what we're doing and you want to support independent media, honestly, $2 a month via Patreon, we can change the world. We can bring you informative, entertaining, enlightening, whatever we do. So, Dan, any final words?
Sarah.
Nah, I'm all good. Thank you so much for coming on there. It was really good.
Thanks,
Thank you
Mahesh.
so
It was
much for
really
having
good.
me. Thank you so much for having me.
Really good.
Appreciate
I hope you at least beat that.
If I don't vote for you, at least my dad will.
Wouldn't that be a weird combination? Greens and National.
We've done
Coalition.
it before.
Really?
We've done it before. The National Party's had coalition with Māori Party and with Greens before. Like, this
Great.
is not...
See, they're
It
not
could
that
work.
different. They're not that
Well,
different.
the Greens Party of today is a little bit different
Okay.
from... Yeah, okay. But-
Well, you know what they say, change is the only constant. Hey, so just final words. Get out there this year, vote.
Yeah.
Vote,
Get involved.
everybody vote.
Yeah,
Let's
use
do this.
your right to vote.
100%.
Because without your right to vote, we're no longer a democracy, and the alternative's pretty fucking ugly. So, thanks to all our guests that have come on recently. We've got Damien from the Opportunities Party coming on board. I suppose we'll have to get one of those wankers.
That's
But
good
who's
looking
that
guy.
crazy guy we can get on? Brian Tamaki. Can we get him?
You should get the New Zealand
We are
Fest.
not getting
how does
Winston
that name-
Peters. Can
I
we
think,
get
no,
Winston Peters?
you should get... I think her name is Lady something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us? You got the phone number?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's a card. Like, there's a card.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty
yeah,
public.
yeah.
Sarah will do it. Nice.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of another exciting episode of the K Road Chronicle.
Tune in next week.